loving somebody, and that somebody loves you back. Ever since you went away, I ain't been doing. Ever since you went away, I ain't been doing.
Teddy's voice was iconic, and his hits were legendary, but there was a whole other side to him that nobody knew about. What was he keeping under wraps, and why did it stay locked up until the end? Let's dive in and find out.
I was born to a very, very religious mother who kept me in church. I used to go to church 6 days a week.
Teddy was born in Philly, the only child of Jesse and Ida Geraldine Pendergrass. His mom was beyond excited when he came into the world. She saw him as a blessing straight from above. Growing up, she fully backed his music passion. At her job, there were these huge music machines, and Teddy would sneak in and jam on the drums when no one was around. Those late-night sessions helped him level up and kept his dreams alive. As Teddy got older, he started drifting away from his church roots. But music was always his thing. He kept singing and even joined the Edison Master Singers at high school. But life wasn't exactly smooth sailing. Teddy grew up in a rough Philly neighborhood with a lot of gang activity. One day, he witnessed a robbery, and even though he had nothing to do with it, he got caught up in the mix. He was wrongly arrested and spent 4 months at the Youth Study Center. That time left a mark on him and stuck with him for years. Teddy had his fair share of struggles, but he never gave up on working hard for a real shot at success. Raised on solid Christian values, he learned early that hard work was key. He picked up drumming gigs at small clubs just to get by, all while chasing his big dreams. At 18, he moved to Atlantic City, a hot spot for live music. There, he worked as a waiter at a club and got a shot to audition as a drummer for Little Royal. He totally impressed the crowd and scored the gig. But after a disappointing tour, he came back home feeling pretty deflated. Teddy didn't let setbacks stop him. He joined groups like Signs of the Times and the Soul Messengers and kept learning and leveling up. Then one night, while performing with the group, Harold Melvin, leader of the legendary Blue Notes, saw something in Teddy that no one else did. At the time, Teddy was just drumming, but Melvin recognized his raw talent and offered him a spot in the band. That moment, total game changer for Teddy. Working with Melvin was a huge turning point. Teddy always said that time was key for his growth. He learned the hard lessons of surviving in the cutthroat showbiz world. He and the crew often struggled to find food and scrape together enough cash for a hotel room, but it was all part of the hustle. At this point, Teddy was known for killing it on drums, but he had bigger dreams. He wanted to sing. Problem was, he didn't think it was ever gonna happen. He'd occasionally sing with the group, but being the lead singer, that was always out of reach, and it drove him crazy. One night, while chatting with a dancer at a club, Teddy mentioned he was thinking about quitting the band. Harold Melvin overheard, and not wanting to lose Teddy, he came up with a new deal: join the singing side of the group. Teddy was pumped and jumped at the chance. Ever since you went away, I ain't been doing nothing. With Teddy now stepping up as a singer alongside Harold, the group started getting some serious attention. Money was still tight, but things were finally looking up. They hit the stage at the Apollo Club in Camden, New Jersey, where they caught the eye of Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff, two major players in the music scene. They worked at Philadelphia International Records, and their interest in the group was the start of much brighter days ahead. In August 1972, Teddy Pendergrass and his crew, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, dropped their first single with a new label, I Miss You. It did pretty well, but it was their next track, If You Don't Know Me By Now, that really put them on the map. The song blew up, hitting #1 on the US R&B chart and landing at #3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Teddy's success brought him fame, cash, and that dream life he'd always wanted.
He started out as the lead singer for Melvin and the Blue.
Charles Mint, one of the other guys in the group, made it clear just how crucial Teddy was. Without Teddy, there wouldn't have been no Blue Notes, Mint said. He also pointed out that Teddy's talent helped big names like Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff reach the top of the music game. Ever since you went away, I ain't been doing nothing. But things weren't always smooth sailing for Teddy. Even though he played a huge part in the group's success, he started feeling like he wasn't getting the respect he deserved. Teddy was frustrated because he thought Harold Melvin, the group's leader, was taking too much control and wasn't doing his fair share. Harold's focus seemed to be all about himself, and it was making everything harder for the band. Teddy wasn't having it. After that night, Teddy had had enough. He wasn't going to put up with being used anymore, so he made the call to leave the group. Word got out that Teddy was out of Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, and the group's popularity started to dip. Soon, other members followed Teddy out the door. Even though Harold Melvin threatened him with violence, Teddy wasn't backing down. He was all in on going solo. Teddy needed someone to help him navigate the biz side of music, so he turned to Taz Lang. She was sharp, successful, and had serious connections with celebs like Dionne Warwick and Nancy Wilson. Plus, she was Teddy's girlfriend at the time. Teddy was totally impressed by her brains and beauty. He ended up moving into her place in Mount Airy, which was basically the hot spot for celebrities. As things between Teddy and Taz were heating up, he asked her for a $15,000 loan to help fund his teddy bear productions. In exchange, he promised her 10% of the royalties from his first album. Taz wasn't just his girlfriend. She became his business manager, helping him score a solo deal even after they broke up. But there was a catch. The contract she made him sign gave her 10% of everything, not just his first album, but all future albums and business deals. Teddy wasn't thrilled about it. It felt too much like the same trap he'd been in with Harold Melvin. He tried talking to Taz about changing the terms, but she wasn't having it. Things started getting messy between Teddy and Taz, and the trust was pretty much gone. They kept working together, but Teddy couldn't ignore that Taz wasn't looking out for him the way she used to. Eventually, Taz packed up and called her mom, Eva, saying she had something big to tell her but didn't give any details. Sadly, that was the last conversation she ever had with her mom. Just days later, Taz was tragically shot outside her home while with Joseph Jojo Tainez, one of Teddy's guys. The shooter came out of nowhere from behind some bushes, and Jojo was in the car when it all went down. No one ever figured out who was behind it, leaving everyone with more questions than answers. Some believed it was supposed to scare her, but it ended in tragedy. Jojo, who saw it all, couldn't shake that night and struggled with it until his passing in 2013. And as for the rumors, they were everywhere, with many wondering if the murder had anything to do with how much Taz had his back, especially against people who didn't like her influence on Teddy's career. Just a week after Taz's passing, Teddy hit a major milestone. He took the stage for his solo debut at Carnegie Hall in New York. Big move. Then he dropped his first solo album, Teddy Pendergrass, and it was a total game changer. The album went platinum with bangers like I Don't Love You Anymore and The Whole Town's Laughing at Me, taking over. Plus, you can't sleep on tracks like You Can't Hide From Yourself and If I Had, pure fire. I don't love you anymore. Teddy came back even harder with his next album, Life is a Song Worth Singing. The album dropped the massive hit Close the Door, which shot straight to #1 on the R&B charts. Tracks like When Somebody Loves You Back and It Don't Hurt Now had fans hooked from start to finish. The album went double platinum, solidifying that Teddy was totally in his prime. Love is somebody, and somebody loves you back. Right before turning 32, Teddy's life took a major twist. One night, he got into an accident that completely flipped everything upside down. In his book, Truly Blessed, he gets real about that night that still messes with him. Teddy was at Club Elan, living it up as the ladies' man, hanging out with his friend Ayechi. That's when they ran into Tenica Watson, a woman Teddy kinda remembered from back in the day. What he didn't know? Tenica, who was born John Watson, had transitioned into a woman in 1977. She'd always felt like she wasn't in the right body. So, as the night went on and Ayechi had to dip for work the next day, Teddy offered to drop her off and told Tenica she could tag along. He promised to take her back to the club later. Tenica remembered it like this. He called me over to his car, which was a Rolls Royce. I thought he was a pimp because I wasn't used to seeing people with Rolls Royces. He said, I'm about to head out too. Want a ride? So, I said sure. After dropping Ayechi off, Teddy and Tenica were cruising through the city, hitting up Lincoln Drive, which is known for its sharp curves. That's when things took a terrible turn. The brakes on Teddy's Rolls failed, and they crashed right into a tree. Teddy got seriously hurt. breaking his neck and ending up paralyzed from the chest down. Tanika, though, only had a few minor injuries, which led to all kinds of rumors that maybe she had something to do with it. Things took an even weirder turn when Tanika tried to contact Teddy after the crash, but couldn't get through. She even made a scene saying, "Well, you're not going to see him before his son does," before storming off. Not long after, investigations revealed that someone had tampered with the car's brakes, turning what seemed like an accident into something way more sinister. Teddy ended up suing Rolls-Royce and won, but now everyone was left wondering who would want to hurt Teddy and why.
I never really got a chance to tell my side of things, and it was important to me. Yes, very important.
Teddy's life changed in a flash. His license was suspended over unpaid parking tickets, and it turned out his cars had been tampered with. Just a week before the crash, he had a minor fender bender with his Maserati. Things got so bad that Teddy even wondered if the police might be involved. After the accident, Teddy fell into a dark place, struggling with depression and losing his confidence. His fans quickly moved on, focusing on Marvin Gaye's Sexual Healing, and Teddy wondered if he'd ever make it back to music. But after a year of rehab, Teddy made an epic comeback. In 1983, he released Love Language, which went gold. He also performed at Live Aid in 1985, his first live show since the accident, and his emotional performance was a major moment. In 1986, tragedy struck again when he was involved in another crash, but Teddy didn't give up. He released Joy in 1988, with the title track hitting #1 on the R&B charts. Though health problems kept him out of the spotlight in the 90s, Teddy kept making music. He wrote his autobiography, Truly Blessed, and continued to work behind the scenes. In 2009, he had surgery for colon cancer, but tragically passed away in 2010, at 59, surrounded by loved ones. He's buried at West Laurel Hill Cemetery,